You're listening to the Food and Fitness Podcast. The show is all about things related to food and fitness. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at food.fitnesspodcast. We're your hosts, Dave Marshall
and Jessica White.
Jackie will be joining us shortly. On today's episode, we're joined by Rebecca Landman, owner and operator of Landman Gardens and Bakery, located outside of Grand Valley in Ontario. Landman Gardens and Bakery is much more than its name. They produce baked goods, and they have preserves, amazing fruits and vegetables, and meats, raised local pork and chicken. And to top it off, they will also do cooking for you in their amazing blackhouse dinners.
So welcome, Rebecca. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today. We are so excited to have you. Talk a little bit more about Landman's Garden and Bakery. So what made you decide to take this avenue as a career?
So there's kind of a long story. So I'm one of 6 kids, and my dad's one of 9. So I've always grown up in a very full dining room, living room, lawn, filled with people and lots of food. So I think when I was trying to pick what I wanted to do, it was college or university, it kind of just came natural. Like, I kind of like cooking. I should maybe learn a bit more about it. And then kind of learning more about cooking and all the different things that we could do. Like I could work in a fine dining restaurant, or we could work in a bakery, or all these different options. I kind of eventually came up with my own business plan. So it was to grow and raise our own meats, eggs, fruits, vegetables, all kinds of stuff on the farm, but also to be able to process them in our commercial kitchen. So that wasn't really it wasn't very clear to start. It was kind of like, I kind of like growing stuff, and I'd like making strawberry jam. So let's see what we can do. So another kind of part of it is the whole connection that food brings. So sitting around a table with my siblings, dinners are hectic and crazy, but still like eating some of the same meals. It's like you're transported back in time. So still when we have like a roast beef dinner with mashed potatoes, I can almost hear my little brothers arguing over who spilled the glass of milk at dinner. So I think that's a really cool thing with food, is that it triggers all these memories. So I just wanted to be able to help people create more of these awesome food memories. So lots of those memories are from my grandparents too. So my grandparents grew a big vegetable garden on the farm. So still like eating a green bean reminds me of picking beans in the hot July sun with grandma. So yeah, I think that was the whole basis of it. Like I said, it wasn't very clear when I wanted to start, but now the further we get into it, this year will be 10 years that we've been open. So amazing. Yeah, it's just the connection that people have with food and the way that it brings us together as a community is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it just keeps evolving.
For sure.
So you grow your own produce for consumption and sale. You raise animals on your farm for sale, and you hire local staff to produce products. So why is doing everything local so important to you and your business? And how does buying local impact an individual's health?
That's a big question.
It is.
So the local thing, it all just kind of made sense when I started. It wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't like a focus of my business, but it was like the feed, like that's how we've always ran the farm. Like the feed stores down the road, like we use the butcher shop that's closest. Our vet lives a side road over. All those kind of things made sense. So when we started doing stuff in the kitchen, like canning tomatoes, it made the most sense to like find the local tomato grower. So I think locals always just made a lot of sense to me, being born and raised on a dairy farm, seeing how many people in the community that it employs. So yeah, and then the important thing with hiring local staff is it's just so neat. So I never really thought that I'd be able to employ full-time staff year-round, but this year we're going to have 7 staff. So that's the highest number that I've had, and 3 of them will be full-time for the year, and then the other 4 are full-time for the summer. So like that's a lot of labor, that's a lot of hours. They have kids, they've got mortgages, they have student loans, like all these things that are also contributing to our local economy. So yeah, I think local is super important, and it sets us apart too from the regular grocery store products, because we can say, like, we just got tomatoes and asparagus this afternoon from the Besleys, and they're in Shelburne. So we can say that to our customers in the morning. Like, these tomatoes were grown 10 minutes away. How cool is that? So yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, like I've been lucky enough to experience like your products through your store, also when you're at the farmers market, and fortunate enough to enjoy the Blackhouse dinner. And it's really nice to have the story that goes behind the meals and the experience. And I mean, walking on your property when you approach, and I mean, you can see the chickens, you can see pigs, you can see where the garden is, and then you're just like, and then that's where you buy it. And it's almost like the perfect ending to one of those tours, like guided tours at a museum, and you're like, this is where all the art is, and here's our gift shop to the left. And I love it. It's such a great experience. Yeah.
I actually had a customer, I was rushing in because of the store, we ran out of eggs halfway through the day the other day. So I threw Charlotte in the carrier and we ran out to the chicken coop, brought a basket of eggs back in. So I'm like all dirty from running through the field with Charlotte and rubber boots. And anyways, the customer, she rolled down her window. She was about to leave, and she rolled down her window and was like, "Oh my gosh, did you just collect those eggs? Like, those are like right fresh." I said, "Yep." Like, the chickens just laid them like within the hour. So she pulled back in, parked, got out, and came in and bought some eggs. So it was a neat thing, because like I do that every day. I collect eggs, I feed the chickens, but to her it was like this instant connection with like, chicken, that girl collected eggs, and I'm gonna buy them and eat them in the morning. Like, it was really neat. It's neat for me to like be able to step back and see how people view it too.
Yeah.
And you're proud in the product that you provide, which you can tell when you're talking about it. Like, there's a little smile on your face when you're telling that story.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's good though, because that you care about your product. And I think that goes through to your staff, and then it goes to the end result for your customers. And I think
for sure,
anyone who's experienced it can appreciate it. So that's fantastic.
For sure.
So everyone through the pandemic has noticed the rising cost of food. But there's also been a huge desire for people to eat locally, or more local, as they can't be traveling all over the place. As a farmer and a business owner, how would you educate people on how to buy local, and maybe if they have to buy on a budget, how they could do that as well?
For sure. So it was kind of a cool thing that we saw the beginning of the pandemic was we closed the store and thought, like, are we going to reopen? Like, what's going to happen? So within 2 weeks we reopened and our freezers were empty. So it was the first year that we sold out of every single cut of chicken, pork, everything we had. And then as we started raising meat and getting it back from the abattoir, selling like crazy. So a couple of things that we've noticed, that customers are purchasing differently. So we started selling more bulk meat packages. So we sell like 5 and 10 pound boxes of chicken breasts or thighs, and then we do a couple different meat boxes different times of the year. So that's really helped both us and the consumer, because we know it's already like it's way easier for us to sell stuff like a 10 pound box of chicken breasts than a pack of chicken breasts to 10 people. And then we can pass some of the savings on to our customers. So that's one way that you can support. Lots of different local farms do different bulk options. So in the fall, we've got half pigs and whole pigs available too. But I know like veggie farmers, they'll sell things by the bushel. Another thing that people have started is canning. So that's become popular and cool again. So I think that's pretty awesome. So learning how to can and freeze stuff, and I mean, my grandma, the wealth of information she has, she should start her own podcast maybe. But yeah, so I think if you are interested in buying local, but also wanting to figure out how to do it economically, those are a couple of really great options. Get a chest freezer, and then, or you can always split stuff with, I've had families that they ordered a whole pig and they split it with their neighbor. So that's a really cool idea too. And then another thing with the cost of everything is we're seeing some of our costs go up like crazy, and they don't seem to make sense. So some of our packaging costs have gone up by like 15 to 20% in a year, and they normally go up like 1 to 2%. Our feed costs this year has gone up 35%.
Oof.
So like that's a lot of money. So yeah, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place because we want to provide good food that's people can afford, but also we can't go broke doing it. So it's a tough world. But yeah, I think as if people can support a local farm, and even if they don't have to do it all the time, but to get out there and see what's in your neighborhood is there's so many local farms that are doing all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, and you can't get any fresher than buying directly from the farmer. So
for sure.
You were just talking about how the eggs, completely the freshest eggs that your customer had bought. So I had to just Google how old can eggs be in the grocery stores. So
yep.
What do you guys think? How old do you think that those eggs in a typical grocery store how old do you think they could be?
Well, I think I know. So Dave.
Okay.
It's funny because I actually Googled this a while ago, and because that was one of my questions. I have friends who were dairy farmers, and yourself, and I didn't know what the disconnect was, and I think it was measured in weeks rather than days or hours.
Yeah, so according to Google, so this is Farmer's Almanac, by law, an egg can be sold for up to 30 days after the date it was put into a carton. But the farmer can have up to 30 days before that egg is put into the carton. So that means that a supermarket egg could be 2 months old by the time that you buy them. And then you buy them, you put them in your fridge for a couple of weeks. So
yeah,
it's mind-blowing. That's so crazy. You can just totally go down the road and buy from a local farmer knowing that they're fresher than anything else.
Yeah, I think for the most part with that, one of our neighbors is a chicken farmer, and they sell to Grey Ridge, and the truck's in there every single day collecting. They bring the eggs in and out, but you definitely can sell eggs up to 40 days. So yeah, it's a totally different experience for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I know that the way they treat eggs in Europe and the way they treat eggs here are very different, because you can buy eggs off the shelf, not the refrigerated section. So do you know, and I don't, that's why I'm asking, if the time frame is different in Europe than it is over here?
I think it's the difference is like, so they don't generally wash their eggs the same as us. So so if you don't wash an egg, the membrane on it makes it last longer. That's why they can keep them. Like, I still wouldn't keep eggs on a shelf, but I've kept them in a bowl in our kitchen just for our own use. But yeah, once you wash the outside of an egg, then that membrane disappears and they don't last quite as long, and they should be refrigerated. So I think that's the main difference. Is like in Europe, it's a weird thing to wash eggs, and here it's a weird thing not to, I think.
That's so interesting.
The more you know.
Yeah, we go camping so much, and my dad, he has 2 laying hens, and he's always like, oh, the eggs don't need to be in the cooler, but that makes sense. And I still get so weirded out. I'm like, no, Dad, like put some ice on those things. But but they've always been totally fine.
Yeah, for sure.
So kind of going back to the whole why buying local is so important. What can the impact be for farms like yours when people shop locally?
So the biggest impact, sorry, I'm going to touch about COVID, I guess. So the biggest impact that we've had in the last year is the amount of customers that are supporting us weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, we've been able to keep our doors open, even when we stopped doing all the extra things. So we used to host workshops, we hosted dinners, lunches, and different events on the farm. We've stopped all of that and then just kept the farm store open, which we weren't really sure that was a viable thing because it was only at like a quarter of our revenue before. And now it's surpassed all of the other things. So by having all these wonderful people that have supported our farm in the last year, we're able to keep our staff employed. We're able to keep the different farms. We have about 15 different companies that we buy stuff from in the store as well. So like we have honey, maple syrup, and beeswax wraps and sparkling cider, all kinds of different things. So being able to keep ordering stuff from them as well too is the impact's amazing.
Yeah, it's like you have your own little market right at your farm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And because if you're doing it right at your own property, you don't have to pay for rental space or like you don't have to give anyone else a cut. It's all coming straight from you, and that impact really helps as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So we are a podcast for normal people, and normal people forget things. And I actually was out on the trail running and enjoying my wonderful run. And I kind of forgot that I was supposed to be here. So thank you to Rebecca for her patience and kindness. So I absolutely will listen, because I know I've missed some really interesting stuff. So Rebecca, perhaps you can talk about so many things have been forced to change over the past year with new rules coming out quickly. What did you have to do so you were able to keep your clients supplied with food? What difficulties have you faced?
Yeah, so lots. So we're kind of like have a pretty good oiled system now. But last March, we closed our doors, and we're trying to figure out what to do and how to get food to people and how to do it safely. So we built like this ridiculous contact form on our website and had people like fill out what to make or what they would like to order. And then we had a cooler system set up out front, and people picked up their order contactlessly. So that worked for a bit until the amount of orders that we got was far exceeding what we could possibly handle in a week. So I brought a couple of my staff back, and we tried to make as much food as we possibly could, but the system wasn't working great because customers could just order and order and order and order, and suddenly we'd had to make 150 chicken pies, as well as everything else in the week. So luckily at the same time, the point of sale system that we use was building an online platform. So I quickly put together our online store, and that's been super slick. So customers can pick a pickup time. We can put our stock in, and then once it's sold out, it's sold out. So that's really helped us figure out how to navigate this, because the sheer amount of food that we were suddenly making at the beginning of the pandemic was just crazy. So yeah, I never would imagine 5 years ago that we would have an online store and we'd be marketing ourselves in the e-commerce world. But it's been pretty awesome. And to be able to have the skill set to kind of pivot our business. I mean, there was lots of learning curves, and suddenly we had customers placing orders for pickup at like midnight tomorrow, and I'm like, oh gosh, I did something wrong.
Oh, goodness.
So figuring that stuff out pretty quick. Everybody's super easy going with all this new world. So calling customers and saying, our inventory wasn't right, we don't actually have this, or sorry, I didn't realize that I had set it to deliver every day all the time. So that there was lots of learning curves for sure. So, and then another thing with when COVID first happened was we had a hard time getting some supplies. So like dairy, our suppliers couldn't get us big pails of yogurt, and we use yogurt in our scones. So instead they started sending us those small little packs, like individual ones. So it was just interesting to see the supply chains. They didn't, I don't want to say fail, but like they couldn't quite figure out what to do with what, because like all the restaurants closed. So like a yogurt supply line didn't need to be making pails of yogurt, but they needed to be making small things. So yeah, it took a while. But I would say by midsummer we could get most of our supplies again, and things are pretty normal now. Occasionally we'll have a hard time with certain packaging or getting gloves or masks. Those things were a bit tricky. But yeah, I think for the most part, everything is kind of leveled out. Yeah.
And I follow you on social too. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you also became a new mom last year in the midst of all of this too.
Yeah. Charlotte was 4 months old when it all happened. So here I thought I could work with a baby and like, it'd be great. I could like go in the morning and like leave when she needs a nap. And then suddenly it was like, we can't do anything. We can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, lots of weird stuff, but.
So I love that. So one of the things is people, they really want to know where their food comes from. And I think with the opening of the internet, like so much social media impact like that, people like to know where it is, where it's grown, if the animal had a name, or, what row. It's funny because that's actually one question I asked someone when I bought half a cow. But how can you educate your clients on where your products come from? And what are some questions maybe that people should be asking their local farmer or farmers market when they're shopping to know that they're getting a quality product?
So a really cool thing with social media is we're able to educate our customers all the time. So we do lots of different short videos on our Instagram. So through our actual story, but then also actual posts. So we try to educate our customers on like how we're growing our food, why we're doing things the way we are. Right from like when we get a baby chick up until they head out to the abattoir, and to what's happening in the kitchen. So we like to show lots of behind the scenes, simple steps like tomorrow we're going to post a behind the scenes of like how we put together a chickpea salad. So it's really neat to be able to have the social media in the different venues and ways that we can educate our customers without physically dragging them around the farm. And then as far as learning about your food from all kinds of different farms, I think the important thing is to educate yourself a bit too. So the way that I kind of see it is that different farms go into different things on purpose. So like our neighbor is a dairy farmer, so they milk cows, we milk goats. A guy up the road raises laying hens. So everybody's doing something, and I would consider them an expert in their fields. So if you go into a conversation with a farmer, think about them as
expert
on it. So there's lots of weird stuff that you can read online. The strangest thing, I've had lots of strange questions from customers about, they've heard that this is how chickens are raised, or like somebody asked me if chickens have their feet tied together so then they gain more weight. I'm like, what? Like that. So then it's really hard to educate some people without also saying like, please stop reading that junk, because that doesn't even make sense. So I think farmers are in it because they enjoy what they're doing. So like we enjoy raising chickens and pigs and turkeys and all these different things. And I enjoy talking to people about it and answering any questions about every step of the way, even like up to the loading of the abattoir and what that looks like. I've had customers ask those questions too. So we don't talk about that a lot on social media because it's not a great thing to talk about. But I'm still welcome. I still welcome questions about every part of it. Anything? Do you want me to add to any?
I think that's great. The fact that you're willing to talk about that part of the process, because a lot of the times, people can see a photo of a pig and then they can see pork chops on the shelf, but
For
they
sure.
don't have the idea of how that gets there. And I mean, unfortunately, yeah, there is a loss of life. But I think the important thing is when you have a farmer who cares so much about their product from the very beginning, you can tell the end result what kind of effort was put into that. And I mean, your pork does not taste like other pork, and that's a good thing. And I think when a general consumer first tastes a product like yours, they can sometimes they're put off by it because they're like, well, this isn't what it tastes like in the grocery store.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that your product is bad. It might be that your product is correct, but the other one has been processed so heavily or so disconnected from the original intention of what that product is supposed to be. I mean, the first time I ever had grass-fed beef, totally weird, because I was like, this is not the beef flavor that I grew up on.
Beef.
Yeah. And then you have like dry aged beef and you're like, whoa. Or you have pigs that were raised like on walnuts or like on tree nuts. And you're like, wow, this tastes completely different than anything else. And I love how society, I think there's pockets of it that are moving towards this area of wanting to eat hyper local. And I think immigration has a huge thing to do with that, because people are coming from countries and they ate a certain way and they want to eat that same way again. And local farmers like yourselves are able to meet those things, and they can get the cuts that they could get at home, but they can't get in the grocery store. And like, that was my favorite thing one time is I sat behind someone ordering, and you could tell that they were an immigrant to this new country and they wanted something specific. And I learned so much from their ordering process. And I was like, I just want what they're having. And then the next time I was like, I want as little ground as possible. And I want to know all the little strange cuts that no one else gets. And then like 4 hours later on the internet, I'm learning how to cook a skirt steak from a pig. Nobody knew that you could do that before. But there's a skirt steak from a pig. It was fantastic.
I think. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, I think in general, a lot of the, I don't know, this is just an assumption, but I think more and more people are becoming more educated in what they're eating. And I think that it's just a big, huge realization that you have to talk to the farmer. You have to know where your food is coming from. And your local farmer is completely different than factory farming and that steak or piece of meat that you're going to get at the typical grocery store. It's raised completely different, and getting to know your farmer, getting to know how they raise it, what their ethics are on food in general, it makes a huge difference.
For sure. I was going to touch on what Dave just said about the immigrants and learning how to cook so many different cuts. So we get all of our organ meats and feet and all those things back. So it is very neat to learn. Like, I wasn't raised in a household that we ate organs or chicken feet or pig trotters or any of those things. We just ate the regular cuts, and those things we just didn't get back from the abattoir. So learning how to get, so the point is, like, a chicken did die in the process of us consuming the meat. So I think honoring that and being able to utilize as much that we actually can is the best way to honor that. So learning how to use chicken feet to make stock, and saving all the chicken backs, and learning how to make pate with the liver. Like, it's really amazing to see people learning all these things, and then also sharing their knowledge. The amount of customers that we've asked that are getting like bulk quantities of pork trotters. Like, what are you doing with these? And can I have the recipe, please?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see so many different ethnic backgrounds and how people are using all these different cuts. It's been really a good learning experience for me too.
So you're having an opportunity to learn from your clients at the same time.
For sure.
I love that. That's so fantastic. And because they're a local supplier or local shopper to local farmer, that connection is there, where you may not have that in another place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I just say, I love the fact that you said you honor the food. And I think that, from our indigenous culture, that's something we've lost. We just put food on our table and we just eat it.
Yep.
And, I know the indigenous culture whereby if they kill a deer or something, that they honor the deer and the life and the spirit that it's given up to sustain them. So I really like that fact that, your food is not just, things that you sit on your plate that you eat and that fills your stomach, that it's something gave up to give to you. And we really have to be aware of that. So I love the fact that you said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So switching gears a little bit from meat over to veggies, because I know that you grow so many amazing veggies. But where is a good place to start for a beginner who wants to plant their own edible garden? So what are some good items for them to start with, and what is best to avoid in the beginning?
So I think there's lots of great things to start with. So I guess it depends on your space and how much time you have. So I would start with growing a couple pots of things. So like tomatoes, super easy. Herbs, super easy. And grow things that you like to eat, because you might have 100 tomatoes. Or radishes, they grow in 20 days. Like that's amazing. And also a cool thing that we've seen a lot is people getting their kids involved in growing stuff, and like still like putting a seed in the ground and it sprouting into something is amazing to me still. And I understand the whole process of it, but like for a kid to be able to see planting a bean seed and it grows into a plant and then grows more beans, like that's amazing. So I would say like start with super easy stuff. Don't till up your whole backyard and try to grow everything for your family to eat. Unless you've got the summer, then that's great. And visit your local greenhouse or garden center. They have a wealth of knowledge, and lots of them have lots of started seeds. So you can go buy cucumbers and kale and all those things. And there's lots of really cool resources online about what grows well together. So if you get a couple pots, grow cucumbers up a trellis. Like there's so many neat things. But I would suggest don't try to start everything from seed. Go to a garden center, get some things that are started really well, and start with a couple things that you really, really enjoy eating, or maybe something that you've never even tried. That's also a cool way to start too.
That's awesome. I was just going to say, we're recording this right before May 2 for a weekend. So May 2 for a weekend is the weekend that I always am at home and I always plant all my veggies. So I have about 12 packages, I think, downstairs that I'm going to try to seed this year. Last year, I probably only did 6. So growing a little bit more every year. But yeah, you're right. Like watch what you're growing, because if you don't eat that certain thing, they'll just go to waste, which is what happened to me last year. I planted so many peppers, and really all I wanted was red peppers. I didn't need the chilies.
You have 100 of them.
Yeah, so it made my neighbor really happy, but I didn't really eat any of those.
Yeah.
I think some of the fun stuff is like when my wife and I are walking, there's one house that we walk by in our neighborhood, and they started sprouting everything, I think probably about a month and a half ago. So they have racks in their windows with lights and just like little sprouts. It's fantastic just to see how excited they are about what's probably going to come down the road. I really hope that we walk by later and there's like baskets of food, like please take this away. Or, those are the kinds of exciting things. But like a lot of people are getting to gardening, which is super exciting. A lot of people are going to have that connection with their food, which again, I'm super excited about. And because I love food so much, I like that other people are starting to like food so much. And I think that can really start to change how people consume food and how food is cared for down the road.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca just had mentioned earlier on that you are a relatively new mom, and I'm because I'm late joining. Having a relationship with your food is really important. That's the sense that I'm getting, and I really never recognized that until I had a kid, because you just put food on your table and you just eat it and then you go and do something else.
Yep.
And then when you have a kid, I became a little more concerned about, you know, did you get your protein today? Like I would use
Yep.
words with my kids, and I'm sure my kids were just like, Mom, 5-year-olds don't talk about protein and carbohydrates. But that's when I became super sensitive. Now, you've always been in the food industry. Have you changed at all since becoming a mom and your thoughts about food now that you have a little one?
For sure. So I think my kind of change started when I was pregnant with Charlotte. So I never used to stop for lunch, and I often would eat breakfast on the go. So suddenly you're a couple months pregnant, and that is not possible, fall over. So realizing like my body's building a human right now. I need to be taking better care of it. Was a huge thing for me. So learning how, like, we always ate well, but I would say that for the most part in the summer, be like, oh, I gotta get this done, gotta get that done, like grab a sandwich and head out to the fields kind of thing. So I think that's when I kind of started to, I guess, take better care of myself too, and more intentional care, I think. So then when Charlotte was born, she didn't start eating obviously for a couple months, but we started doing baby-led weaning. So it's like feeding her more actual foods instead of pureed stuff. So like really soft cooked broccoli. So that was really neat because she is the least picky kid I've ever met, ever. Her favorite foods now are broccoli and tomatoes. So like that's awesome. I gave her a bit of chocolate pudding the other night, and she was like, oof, pushed it away and grabbed more broccoli. So like, cool, but like chocolate pudding is still good, kid. So I think, yeah, I've definitely learned a lot about, and like the whole thing, like with having protein and making sure that she's getting enough good fats. And yeah, it's totally changed my perspective, and like the whole intentional eating and making sure that I have snacks packed everywhere has been, yeah, it's everything changes when you have a kid. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And I find the same thing. I have a 5-year-old, and everything's changing all of the time with what he wants and what he doesn't want, but he
Yep.
still loves veggies. And I think when you start them young and you introduce and you continue to introduce, it's the best way to start them, but you do have to be more mindful. So what can people expect to see in the future with Landman's?
So that's a hard question. Like 5 years ago, I had a solid answer for that. Now, not really sure. So we're building our, like, before we would have a business plan for a couple of years down the road. It's always changing. But I mean, now we're building like a plan into just the fall, and then from the fall to the winter. So I think for now, our plan is to keep the farm store obviously open, keep our online store open as long as it's useful for people, with the idea that we can start to add stuff back in as the world reopens and as our staff is comfortable. So I really miss having people on the farm and being able to like host a workshop and teach them how to can and host lunches and all those things. I think it's mainly seeing people and connecting and having them sit around a table laughing and all those things. I hope we can start to do them all again soon. So yeah, so we'll see what the year brings. I don't foresee us adding any of that stuff back this year, but mainly because we're in like a small kitchen environment and we were bringing people in from all over the province, or like the dinners were 16 people that were booked as individual tickets or couples, again, from all over Ontario. So I think we'll probably wait to start lots of that stuff into the spring. But again, we'll see what happens. So yeah, for now, we're going to keep the online store going, farm store going. We're constantly adding to our social media. So we're trying to keep relationship building and keep showing everybody what we're doing. And yeah, the importance of supporting local farms for sure.
I have to admit, I'm jealous of your job and the fact that you're outside and you're in nature. And I'm going to geek out a little bit here. There's some really neat stuff that originally came out of Japan. It was called forest bathing. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the Japanese word for it. But as a forest bathing is people's mental health really improved just simply being outside, and rates of depression, anxiety, all that stuff decreased. And as a food and fitness podcast, we really believe that food and fitness go hand in hand, and fitness can be defined not just the lifting of weights. How do you find that the job that you do as a farmer impacts you from that fitness perspective? And I'll let you kind of define a little bit what fitness means to you.
For sure. So a farmer, depending on where you're working or what you're doing, it's all kinds of different levels of physical activity. So for the most part, my job is fairly physical. So we have our chickens out on pastures. So we are physically going out and moving their coops onto a new area of pasture, moving the feed bags, physically moving the actual animals. And I'm normally doing it with the Charlotte on my back. So add a 30-pound weight or chasing her through the field. So I think fitness is a huge thing, but it's also something that we kind of take for granted as farmers. So when I was pregnant, I had a strange knee injury called a Baker's cyst. So I couldn't walk for 2 weeks, and I was losing my mind, just sitting with my leg up on the couch. So I physically felt fine, but my leg was swollen like crazy. So I think after going through something like that, I really, the whole thing about like honoring our body and making sure we're taking care of it and resting and eating and all those important things. It's a bigger thing than just being able to move a bunch of feed bags without losing your breath. I think it's a whole way of living for sure.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe, and I'm really interested in the mental aspect. So how would you describe kind of that time whereby you had your foot up on the table or whatever, not being able to move from both that physical, but also that like missing farming? I don't know, maybe I assume you like getting your hands soiled and feeding the chickens and hanging out with the animals. Like, can you just describe kind of from that mental perspective?
Yeah, so for like the first 2 days, I was like, sweet, this is great. Got some food here, like I can watch some bad movies. But then after that, it was also like July, so it was beautiful. So yeah, I definitely felt like my mental health was like, and then luckily I have lots of great support, so I could call my sister and say like, oh, this sucks so much. She's like, everything's fine, you're gonna be walking soon, don't worry. But I can totally see how injuries and stuff definitely affect your mental health. So and being outside and physically active all the time, even then I was 6 months pregnant and we're still doing all kinds of things. So yeah, sorry, did that answer your question? Kind of.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I'm always interested in the fact, and I say that I'm jealous because I sit in these four walls, and I find sometimes I need to get outside. And it's simply being in nature for me is critical. And I feel this sense of, and I don't even really know the word, it's just a sense of, and I'm not really a gardener at all, but I do feel good when I get dirt under my fingernails, right? And it's kind of seeing the things grow. And for me, it's just simply being outside. So when I say I'm jealous, I'm jealous in the fact that your job is outside in nature and you get to see these things grow. So that's just, my take on it. Maybe people are like, nope, just a job, throwing some seeds in, pay the bills, and we harvest it, and then I break for winter or something. So yeah.
I think you're totally right. There's something magical about it, being able to see everything come alive in the spring and enjoy every season is pretty lucky for sure.
So before we sign off, I do have one question for you that I've actually never asked you, but I didn't send you earlier. As someone who's so involved in food and farming, what is your favorite thing to eat? And what is your least favorite thing to eat? And we're not even going to hold it against you, but you have to answer the second part.
Okay. Favorite thing, that really changes all year. I would say strawberries are probably like pretty high up there, like a good fresh strawberry. My least favorite is definitely like radishes. They're not good. I keep trying to like them, but they're just spicy and not delicious. But yeah, I think every season has got something, when it's like fall and you're like, I just need an apple. Like being able to have access to those foods is pretty cool too. And to see them grow seasonally and also using them in the kitchen is amazing. So we just ordered 170 pounds of asparagus for pickling next week. So I might not be a fan of asparagus by the end of the week, but we'll see.
There is something really special about like picking something from the garden and just eating it. Like asparagus tastes special at that certain time of year.
Yeah.
And like corn at a certain time of year, like there's nothing like that corn, or like even peaches, man. You get like that peach and then you eat it and it's just warm. You have to like stick out and like eat it like, oh yeah. To me, that's one of my favorites. Like seasonal fruits is up there.
For me, asparagus is my favorite. And actually, when I was in high school to college, I worked seasonally at an asparagus farm, like bunching them and putting the elastics on them, trimming the ends. So doing that all summer long, I still love asparagus.
Amazing.
So,
that's impressive.
Yeah, it's, one of those things where you can never get enough of it.
Okay, Jess, what's your least favorite?
It's so hard. I love vegetables so much. I don't know, something that I'll never buy in the store. I don't know what I don't buy for vegetables. I am not picky when it comes to food.
That's good.
I love everything. Probably artichokes, just because I don't know how to cook with them.
Yeah.
They're an intimidating vegetable.
Yeah.
One of my least favorites is chickpeas. I don't know what it is, but there's something about like the texture of like the skin, especially canned chickpeas, but like the skin and like the inside. No, for me, it's not my thing. I'll eat hummus. I have no problem with that, but like canned chickpeas, not my thing. Jackie, let's hear it. Favorite and least favorite.
We had chickpea curried lentil tonight for dinner. I love chickpeas.
And I'll eat that.
Just not out of so yeah. I am a very picky eater. I'm sorry to say I am, and it took me a while to learn to like a lot of vegetables, but my least favorite is Brussels sprouts, and I don't think I can ever eat Brussels sprouts, followed very closely by asparagus, and I could go on. So it is something that I've always tried to incorporate. I like my spices, but I'm a big fruit girl. So I like the crunchiness. I love the texture of cucumbers and carrots and stuff like that. So I am trying to be more adventuresome, but yeah, I will continue to do that.
I think trying is the biggest step. So Rebecca, thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate it. I think the three of us have learned a ton from what you've said. I think our listeners will also be able to learn a ton and do maybe look at their garden a little bit differently, or their yard. And next thing you know, we'll have people writing in about how they have no lawn anymore and just gardens. But let's have an opportunity for you to share with our listeners where they can find you, social media, your website, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. So yeah, our farm store, we're just 5 minutes north of Grand Valley. But if you go onto our website, there's a map because I know some people are a little mixed up with back roads. So our website is laymanGardens.ca, or you can visit our online store and it's shoplayman's.ca. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and it's just at Landman Gardens. Yeah, be sure to give us a like and let us know what you want to see. I'm always happy to have feedback and to hear what people are looking to learn about. And yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This is great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Summer's always a pleasant season here in Southern Ontario, and I think this summer is going to be a little bit different for everyone. I remember an old slogan from, I think it was OLG, Ontario Lottery Gaming, and it was "Know your limits, play within it." And that's kind of how my wife and I have looked at fitness in regards to the last year. So we knew what our county was. We had as much fun as we can within our county. So those were our limits. We played within them. But with both of you, what kind of challenges have you faced when it came to adjusting your summer plans, and how have you been able to overcome them, and what are you looking forward to this summer?
So I'll start, I guess. So for me, what am I looking forward to this summer? I have actually a dream where I did actually have a dream the other day where I'm sitting with my friends on a patio and we're enjoying a meal, and we're taking time and we're savoring the food and we're laughing and we're just sharing company with others. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. I also run with a group, and we don't do it anymore. And it's not the run that I look forward to, but it's the afterwards. It's the parking lot banter that I look forward to. So, I don't know if I'm any different than anybody, but I look forward. And again, this is why my passion for mental health has grown significantly. And that's why I always look at fitness as physical, because I do really well in the physical stuff. The mental stuff, I'm feeling that drain. And I think that I'm pretty mentally strong. And I always think if I'm feeling it, oh my goodness, there's lots of people that are struggling right now. So I don't have any specific things other than I just want to connect with people. I love you guys, but I really want to see you face to face, like in my face, not on a screen.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling that burnout too. And I don't know if there is a single parent in the province battling or kind of trying to balance working for themselves and trying to do online learning at home that isn't feeling that burnout. It's a lot. So this summer, I'm really looking forward to not having to balance online kindergarten and my work. I'm really excited that summer camps have opened up because I think that finally allows my son a chance for a little bit of normal. So I have signed him up for a couple weeks this summer just so I can kind of focus on my work. He can still have fun. He can still have that, school's out for the summer, something to look forward to. But on weekends, we are really big into the outdoors. And a couple of years ago, we decided to buy a camping trailer. A lot of our family members have camping trailers. So I'm really looking forward to being outdoors all weekend long at the trailer with the dogs, amazing food on the barbecue, and just out in nature, calming down and, recharging. I also bought a kayak and I went out last weekend, all weekend, 2 different lakes. So I'm really excited to explore a little bit more in our local area. We have so many amazing small lakes around us. So I'm really excited to go out and just adventure. So that's what I'm looking forward to this summer.
Yeah, for myself, it's definitely getting out there and getting to experience as many kilometers of trails as we can. But, we have planned trails around wineries, breweries, cideries, food stops. And I think that's what I'm really looking forward to again is reconnecting with the area, the people who are in it, and not having to run off the trail when someone else is passing by, kind of having a closer hello, a little bit more connection. And I think it's not until like the last couple months where I've really missed that is the social connection with people. And I was actually shockingly an introvert for like a year, but now I'm starting to get back to my old self again. I'm like, man, I really want to get out there and see people again. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I think it's the connection. People really make it special. So that's important for me. I'm super glad that Rebecca got to come on to this episode. I think we got to learn a lot from her. I'm really looking forward to having an opportunity to go see her store, to go visit her farm again. So looking forward to that. But until next time, folks, we'll talk food.
We'll talk fitness.
And we'll do it together.
Thank you for watching and listening to this week's episode of the Food and Fitness Podcast. Join us next time when we interview Gary Skin, who is an advocate for the local, fresh, and nutritious food movement in Orangeville. We will dive in and discuss the importance of the local farmers market, community gardens, and how you can grow your very own urban garden.